Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So far, we've explored what leadership is and the personal characteristics that contribute to effective leadership. Next, we're going to examine one of the most recognizable leadership styles, charismatic leadership. If I asked you to picture a charismatic leader, you could probably think of someone almost immediately. Maybe it's a coach, a military commander, a politician, a CEO, or even a teacher. These are the people who seem to command attention the moment they walk into a room. They communicate with confidence, they inspire others, and often motivate people to accomplish things they didn't think were possible. But today, I want us to examine charisma more critically. Is charisma enough? Or does effective leadership require something more? By the end of this lecture, I think you'll see that charisma can be an incredible asset, but only when it is grounded in integrity, accountability, and service. Today's lesson supports two important course learning outcomes. First, you'll evaluate how different leadership styles influence ethical policing and community trust. Second, you'll continue building the knowledge you'll need later in the course to develop leadership strategies that improve morale, accountability, and organizational effectiveness. As we discuss charismatic leadership, keep asking yourself one question. Would I follow this leader simply because they're inspiring, or is it because they've earned my trust? Those are important distinctions to know. So, what is charismatic leadership? Charismatic leadership is built around a leader's ability to inspire others through personality, communication, confidence, and vision. Charismatic leaders often make people believe that change is possible. They communicate optimism, they create excitement, they inspire commitment. One thing I've noticed throughout my own career is that people naturally gravitate towards leaders who communicate clearly and confidently. Whether I was working in the legal field as a paralegal, teaching college courses, or serving on the school board, I've seen that people appreciate leaders who provide direction during times of uncertainty. But confidence alone does not make somebody an effective leader. Confidence does open the door, but character determines whether people are going to continue following you. So, what are some characteristics of charismatic leaders? Researchers have identified several characteristics that charismatic leaders often share. They're going to be excellent communicators. They articulate a compelling vision. They demonstrate confidence. They project optimism. They're passionate about their mission. They're persuasive. And they're often willing to take calculated risks. These qualities can energize organizations. People begin believing they can accomplish more than they thought possible. And that is one of charisma's greatest strengths. So why do people follow charismatic leaders? So let's think about why charismatic leaders attract followers. It's rarely because of their title alone. Sometimes you got to follow people, right? But if you're going to follow someone, it's not typically just because they're the boss. Hopefully. People follow them because these types of leaders create hope in an organization. They communicate purpose. They make others feel included in something meaningful. I've experienced this in education. Students are much more engaged when instructors communicate enthusiasm and genuinely believe in their students' ability to succeed. And this same principle applies in criminal justice. Officers are more likely to embrace change when leaders explain not only what is changing, but why it matters. Charismatic leaders help people see the bigger picture. So, charisma in criminal justice. Charismatic leadership can be incredibly valued in criminal justice organizations. Imagine a department experiencing low morale. Recruitment is down, community trust has declined, and employees feel disconnected. A charismatic chief may be able to unite the organization around a shared vision. I've also seen this in public service. On the school board, there have been times when our community has faced difficult decisions. During these moments, leadership wasn't simply about making motions or casting votes. It was about communicating openly, listening respectfully, and helping people understand the long-term vision, even when their opinions differ. That's something charismatic leaders do well. They help people believe that improvement is possible. So what are the advantages? What are the strengths of charismatic leadership? So they have many advantages. Charismatic leadership will improve morale. It increases employee motivation. It strengthens your employees' organizational commitment. It encourages employees to be innovative. It helps organizations navigate change. Perhaps, though, most importantly, charismatic leaders inspire people to become invested in a mission that's larger than themselves. And this is especially valuable in the criminal justice system, where employees often work in difficult and stressful environments. When people believe their work matters, they're more likely to remain engaged. But also, what are the risks of this charismatic leadership, right? When there's charisma also carries risks. History provides many examples of charismatic individuals who inspired followers while leading them towards unethical decisions. And that is why charisma alone should never be mistaken for effective leadership. A charismatic leader who refuses accountability can become overconfident. One who discourages criticism can create groupthink. One who values personal popularity over organizational success may lose sight of the mission. As someone who has served in elected office, I've learned that public leadership requires listening to criticism. You need to lean into it, not avoid it. You don't have to agree with every criticism made of you. Heck, Google me. I don't. But good leaders remain willing to hear different perspectives because accountability makes your organization stronger. So, charisma without character. And this may be the most important point in today's lecture. So take note, guys. Character always matters more than charisma. People may initially follow a leader because they're inspiring. They continue following because they're trustworthy. I've worked with individuals who were exceptional public speakers, but struggled to build lasting relationships because their actions did not match their words. I've also worked with quieter leaders who rarely sought attention, but consistently earned respect because they treated people fairly. They communicated honestly, and they demonstrated integrity. Those leaders often leave the greatest legacy. Influence may attract followers, but character keeps them. So building that community trust. One of our outcomes focuses on community trust. You can't work in law enforcement and not want to build community trust. It's just not a thing. Charismatic leadership can certainly strengthen public confidence. A leader who communicates openly and is visible to the community and articulates a positive vision often inspires that confidence that is needed. But trust is not about personality alone. Trust is built through consistency. Trust is built when leaders admit mistakes. Trust is built when they remain transparent. Trust is built when they apply standards fairly. One lesson I learned through public service is that people don't necessarily expect their leaders to be perfect, but they do expect honesty. They do expect fairness. And they expect leaders to explain their decisions respectfully. Those qualities together build a lasting public trust. So now we have a scenario. Imagine you've just become the chief of police. Wow, the last video you were a sergeant, now you're the chief of police. Good work, guys. So, officer morale is low. Recruitment is difficult, something agencies across the state and across the country are dealing with right now. Community confidence has declined. So how might charismatic leadership help here? You could communicate a compelling vision. You could meet with employees, attend community events, celebrate successes, and explain organizational goals. But if your actions don't support your words, that vision that you have will eventually lose credibility. And that is why I argue to you that charismatic leadership must always be paired with accountability. So I want you to take a time and kind of reflect, right? Because the most powerful way to understand a charismatic leader is to examine it through your own lens and experiences, through essentially your worldview. So I want you to think about a leader who genuinely inspired you. And I want you to look at their confidence, how they communicated, their optimism, and their integrity. If you want, you can share in the comments below, who the person is and what your thoughts are. I'd be really excited to look at them. So let's connect what we've learned to our course outcomes. So today's lesson directly supports two of our course outcomes. First, we've evaluated how charismatic leadership can promote ethical policing and stronger community relationships. Second, we begun thinking about how leadership styles influence morale, accountability, and organizational effectiveness. As future criminal justice leaders, your challenge isn't simply becoming influential. It is becoming somebody worthy of that influence. So key takeaways overall from the lecture. Let's review what we learned. Charismatic leaders inspire others through communication, confidence, and vision. Charisma can improve morale and help organizations embrace change. However, charisma without integrity can become manipulation. Character is ultimately more important than personality. The most effective criminal justice leaders combine that inspiration with ethics, humility, accountability, and service. So, looking ahead. As you complete this chapter, I'd like you to think about a leader who inspired you. What made that person charismatic? But more importantly, what made them trustworthy? Those two questions aren't always answered the same way. In our next lecture, we'll examine transformational leadership. That is a leadership style that focuses not simply on inspiring people, but on developing them, empowering them, and helping organizations create lasting change. I'll see you in the next video.